Go live, bitch.
Trying to figure out which way I want to go. I don't know which way I want to go. Olay. That's the good stuff. All right. Welcome to another podcast at the Fascar Pit Stop podcast, talking about an absolute awesome race this week. Blah, 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 blah. Already can't speak. That's how good this one's going to be today.
There's your way off my coffee.
It's iced coffee. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's something.
Boogie, let's go. Let's go talking, boys. Boogity, boys.
God bless America, and gentlemen, start your engine!
Still down there. Still down there.
Still outside corner, you're number one.
Was out. Hell was out. Manager just about out-wrecked him. And then she busted her ass.
Excuse me. Huh? What?
What?
So what? What's up, everybody? Let's see. We got a couple people already in the chat. What's up, Bill? How's it going? Good to see you again.
Hi, Bill.
How'd you enjoy the race? I saw some of your photos. I saw you were down in the infield, but the little piece down at the bottom. David Moss, boogies. Let's get talking. William Calloway, all with his one good ankle. But yeah, so we had a great racing weekend. Let's see, we did not have. What do we not have this week? We did not have everybody this weekend. They did kind of the trade-offs. Last weekend we had Xfinity. This weekend we did not. We had trucks. And I just want to talk a little bit about the truck race at least, because Kyle Busch was in it, always favored to win those things, and could not get it done. Did not have the best truck. I don't know what it is about Eckes and Bristol, but he definitely has the truck set up to win that race pretty consistently now.
Sure. I didn't watch it, so.
Are you even a fan?
Not of trucks, no. It's like watching Arco and steroids.
There we go. Now I got it live on both. Perfect. Well, then we'll skip right away from it. Let's go ahead and move straight into what everyone wants to talk about. What's up, Pet Marine? What's up, Big Cot? Cochran and three others won't show me everybody, but thank y'all for joining over here on the Instagram side. But let's start talking about Bristol itself as far as the racing action, because I don't know about you, but short tracks might be back.
They're only going to be back if we continue to run tires that fall off like that.
And have you listened to Actions Detrimental yet?
I have. I've listened to about 30 minutes of it.
About 30 minutes of it. So I guess you've gotten to the point where they've already started talking about this. Is it the tire or is it the track temp? Because Goodyear is saying that is the same exact tire from last year. The last tire they got is literally the same exact tire, just older. But apparently this year's tire supposedly was made the same as last year's tire from the way I understood it.
Yeah, it's definitely a track issue or track temperature issue because I even remember that during the broadcast yesterday, they were saying Logano put on tires from last year. So they were the same date or same production code, but they were date coded from last year. So if that's the case, it's definitely not a tire compound issue.
Yeah, and they said they ran, I believe, 70 laps, or he ran 70 laps on those tires. And so the only thing that's changed is literally the track at that point as far as temp goes. Because if they're running the same kind of tire compound, or at least makeup, the resin was already in the lower lines, but it was not in the upper grooves, and they still had the same. What?
Huh?
What? Who went on where? Now, obviously, this was dirt previously. Got the flag right here behind me, but I'm going off the fall race. Okay, All good. Enjoyed watching from pit road. I'm sure you did. You got some pretty good photos, man. It was a good watch. Dogs already. Tisk. But yeah, so I mean, the tire fall off was amazing. It was literally like falling off of a cliff as time was going on. Crew chiefs really didn't know what to expect. Drivers didn't really know what to expect. They were using up their tires way quick, and I enjoy it. Anytime that they don't know what's going on, I feel like you're going to have a good racing product until they figure it out, and then it's going to go back to being kind of the same old.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to like what Bill had just said. Their track temperature in the 60s with the sun out. I think Denny said it in the podcast too, and I thought it was weird because I watched practice and qualifying, and the first group of practice, Group A, I mean, they ran like 50, 60 laps, and all those guys had long run. I say long run, but they put essentially a tire run out there. And Denny said that there was some tire degradation, but it wasn't like what we saw in the race. And then Group B went out, and I was looking through like the lap averages for practice, and Group B, like nobody ran more than like 10 laps, it seemed like. So it was hard to gauge who was going to be fast because of that. And then on top of that, I think that we had teammates in both groups, and probably whoever was in Group A was like, hey, look, we got some tire fall off going on here. And then Group B shows up, and there's like massive tire fall off. And I think Denny even said that the conditions of the track had changed just from Group A to Group B. Like it went from sun to shade, temperatures dropped, and that's when they were already starting to see the issue with it.
Yeah, because I mean, you even saw it in qualifying with Group A, Group B. Because Group A, when they qualified, they were racing basically on a completely different track, and the times were completely different. So you saw like the fall off between even that was dramatic, especially once they went to the final group of 10, taking the 5 from Group A, the 5 from Group B. They went to do it again, and they sat there and ran like significantly slower than what they ran their first time in Group A. So my phone was blocking it. I see now. I agree, Cooper. I agree. I concur. So I keep the flag up. Dirt Dega next.
I almost want my dirt shirt too.
Only if they dirt Daytona before that.
I think they should do dirt Sonoma.
Yeah, dirt Sonoma.
Left and right.
Just dirt Texas.
Dirt road course.
Under the dirt. Put Texas literally under the dirt. That would be exactly where it would need to be at. But
we're not talking about Texas.
If I can always talk trash about Texas, I'm gonna talk trash about Texas. Texas just sucks. Not the state, the track, just in case there's anybody in here from Texas. But yeah, no, it's been it was great racing. I mean, there was comers, there was goers. I mean, there's just so much going on that track. Especially once they kind of hit that wall of the tires wearing out. They got down to the cords. Now, I would say hopefully they can replicate this, but lengthen it just a little bit more, or make it the tire have a little more longevity.
I think it's more or less the fact that teams, we saw it in the first stage. A lot of guys, it was like a light switch. As soon as I think Kyle Busch was the first one that had a tire issue, and then Denny was the next one, and it was like Joseph was at the house. We were watching the race together, and we're both like, what the fuck is happening? Like everybody just started falling off the pace. And as soon as that started happening, I think everybody had realized that, hey, there's a tire issue going on here, because it was like, I think Denny said it. It was literally like you're driving and then all of a sudden you just lost grip. It was not, a gradual, it was instantaneous.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I think that the first half of the race, everybody was trying to learn, what to do. I was listening to Larson's radio the entire time. He was saying the track wasn't taking rubber at all. He even at one point was like, yeah, I think we should red flag this, and like NASCAR needs to figure out what to do because this isn't right. And David said in the comments, hearing a lot of drivers say that they didn't want to, race like that again, versus us thinking that it was a fantastic race. And I heard that too, that a lot of drivers were like, yeah, this just, it didn't jive. I think the drivers want it more in their control, like more or less horsepower and tire fall off versus just tires degrading like that and riding around. I think I heard something Blaney, a post-race interview, and he was like, yeah, this reminded me of Daytona 500 where we just rode around trying to save fuel. Like everybody was just riding around trying to conserve tire. It
Yeah.
wasn't like
Once they
actually
figured it out.
yeah, it was like everybody didn't know how far the tire could last, so they're just riding around trying to make it to the next pick sequence versus, okay, we know the tires are going to wear. We know the tires have 2 or 3 seconds of fall off in them, and I can save a little bit up front and race really hard at the end, and I'm not going to risk a tire actually blowing out. And I think that's the difference. Like you said, I think there's a fine line between of what we saw yesterday and a adjustment to where the tires don't physically blow out, but they do wear.
What up, Dakota?
Daddy Dakota?
I want to touch on, so the Pit Marine put over into the Instagram side. Obviously, he works as I don't know what truck he's on this year, if it's the same as last year or not. But he's on the pick team as well. And he said, for what it's worth, the wear in the tires coming off the truck Saturday night wasn't out of the ordinary. So temperature definitely has a lot to do with it. The grooves they're running obviously does a little bit there, but temperature has a lot to do with it. So I was interested to know, because I didn't even think about it till afterwards. Like, I was wondering how the truck's tires were, because watching that race, and obviously those are spec. I mean, it's basically spec racing, but it didn't look like they really cared about it. Then when you get into the Cup Series, they were definitely caring about it once they figured it out. Now, the good news is not everyone figured it out at the same time, and you had some people that wanted to get up front. So it turned into that chaos we saw, which I kind of like it when the drivers are uncomfortable. I don't want the drivers to be comfortable all the time. I want them to push it. I want them to get out there, get behind the wheel, and actually race. But it seems that we get some of the best racing when the crew chiefs or the drivers are not comfortable. So I enjoyed the heck out of that race. I was watching it, and the chaos ensued whenever, everyone's sitting there trying to time their pitting perfectly because they don't want a caution to actually happen. And then you don't want to run through too many people because then there's less people to create that caution. So you don't want to get caught on the back end of it. And I think that was just, to me, that was an awesome on-track product.
Yeah, I have no I don't really have anything bad to say about the race yesterday, other than the fact that I'd say the first at least half of the race, it seemed like that when guys started realizing that their tires had just completely shit the bed, they were almost intentionally trying to bring a caution out, whether it was spinning or just racing over their heads and causing a caution.
Yeah.
Running into somebody and spinning them out, whatever it was. We saw the deal with Cindric. He drove in deep and flat out took out Stenhouse. I don't know what the deal was with that. The last 50, 60, 70 lap run we had where everybody had to make a green flag pit stop, I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
I wanted to see that from start to finish. I don't want to see the cautions break it because it was almost like competition cautions. You were almost like, okay, we're going to get 50 laps into this run. Somebody's going to spin out. There's going to be a caution. We're not going to see strategy take place here. We're not going to see somebody try to flip track position or anything like that. It was literally like somebody was banking on a caution, and that's what the first half of 3/4 of the race was like for me.
Well, and I'll say this, NASCAR finally did another thing right, in my opinion. They definitely waited to throw the flag in a couple different instances where there were slow cars on track or like almost losing it.
I'm not bashing NASCAR's
happy with
decision in
that.
this at all. They called this race perfectly. I don't think they did a bad job at all, given the circumstances. I think they were probably just as like, oh, what the fuck did we do here? Type situation for them. And
Well, they called Goodyear, and so they had to figure out, they had to give extra tires to the teams. Not everyone used them. Denny said they didn't use it on his car. We know Logano used it. I think some of the other guys that had some of the spin out issues or stuff like that, they ended up having to use them. But I mean, they were worried. Bubba even was talking on his radio of, hey, if we have to black flag this thing for them to bring us tires, let's do that. So I get it. The drivers were not comfortable, but watching that race, it brought it back to being what it needed to be again.
Yeah, like Dakota says there, the yellows were, a little much. I think so too. I think there was, who was it that had like just got out of the groove and like touched the wall? I think it was for Barry. Barry like did a 360 on the back straight.
Barry did the 360 spin and like got up
no contact, no damage, and then there was like a 15-lap yellow. And I was, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm. They were trying to get it closer to the stage break on that one.
Yeah, that's the only problem I had with the way NASCAR officiated it, was that they were, kind of, toying a little bit there. Like, I wish they would have just let it run, let it figure it out. I did mention in the group that I was like, if they fucking go back to like Indianapolis in '08 and throw competition cautions every 10 laps, I'm turning it off. I'm not watching that shit.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that they let the drivers figure it out. We were obviously at a slow enough speed track to where somebody blows a tire, it's not going to be a detriment. Normally, they're just going to slide down the track. So yeah. Like they're manipulating it, and that's what it seemed like.
Yeah. And so my question is, at that point, they're manipulating the race. Yeah, for sure. And they get, you're fined if you do that as a driver.
Yeah.
My question is, are they going to make changes before you hit Martinsville, before you hit some of these other short tracks we have coming up, to where we're not going to see this again this year? Or is Martinsville and some of these other ones going to be better than what we're used to?
So I really hope, and I think I sent it out too, that John Probst from NASCAR said that this is one of the best short track races he ever seen. So you're having, one of the top guys in NASCAR be like, okay, this was pretty good. This was entertaining. So what do they do from here? Because we hadn't even talked about this. This whole previous week leading up to Bristol, we had multiple drivers talking about horsepower coming from Phoenix, going into Bristol. Kyle Larson was the biggest one. He was on Dojo Download, and he was like, "This takes nothing to add 1,000 horsepower to these cars again. Nothing." So, with that being the case, does NASCAR go, okay, we realize that our tire package caused an exciting race. Do we tweak that and make that better? Do we add horsepower like the drivers are asking, or do we do a combination of both, or do we leave it alone? They know they have a problem. They know it needs to be fixed. I can't imagine that they're going to leave it alone at this point. They know they have to do something.
Or are they just going to sit there and go, look, we don't need horsepower. We just need tire fall off.
And I feel like that's what they're going to do because that's going to be the easiest and cheapest route. My problem with it is they still, I feel like they should still add horsepower. I said it yesterday.
100%.
They need to add horsepower and tire fall off. It needs to be
100%.
both. Because if you have more horsepower, you're buzzing the tires, you're able to spin the tires, you're able to drive in deeper. That opens up, in between runs, a whole lot of passing opportunities. But then you also have to manage your tires. So put it back in the driver's hands. We're beating a dead horse here. I don't think they're going to add horsepower.
They're
going to go down this tire route.
Need to. They need to add horsepower, but they're just not going to. Martinsville shouldn't eat the tires up like Bristol did, right?
Depends on the temperature.
Track tips would be a big thing, but it shouldn't technically.
If Martinsville gets the same tires they ran this weekend, meaning that the tire they ran this weekend was the exact same tire they ran at the fall race at Bristol, the night race last year. Yes. If they run the same tire at Martinsville, the corners are concrete, just like Bristol is. If the temperature is low enough, I think we kind of see the same thing. Maybe not to the same degree, but I think you do see a fall off.
Well, and I believe they also put resin on Martinsville too, right? If I remember right.
I think so.
Just in the corners. Yeah. Resin on that lower line.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think you should see about the same. I don't remember the banking differences, but it should be close, but it might not be the same.
Bill makes a good point right there too. Martinsville is much slower. The corner speeds are much slower. The G forces, the load on the car is much different. I go back to adding more horsepower. If these guys had more horsepower for Martinsville in particular, I think that we do see something much better than we have in the past next gen era at Martinsville. Even with shifting.
Well, that's the thing about horsepower. If right now they drop a gear and they fix their mistake. If they have all the horsepower, if they drop a gear, they could spin. If they spin, that's going to put them back. So that's what we want. We don't want them to be able to drop a gear and they just can floor it again and you're fine. Yeah. No banks at Martinsville. That's what it is. Yeah. So no banks at Martinsville. That's why it's got the slower corner speeds. So you're going to be sitting there and we're talking about, these cars that right now are just too controllable. And if you add the horsepower, you add the tire fall off, then you get a race car that's not as controllable. And race car drivers have to be race car drivers. They can't just be floor it, half throttle brakes.
Everybody that is in the Cup Series now, the playing field is so level, the way the packages are set up, there's no real way to define somebody's talent, because Carson Hocevar, he's obviously having a outstanding year to start with. We're talking about him every single weekend, it seems like.
Yeah.
If Carson was in the old Gen 6 car with narrow tires, smaller brakes, the braking zone's much longer, even with the lower horsepower that we had with the Gen 6 car, we wouldn't be talking about him. I promise you, because he would have to be learning how to drive that car. These cars, I'm not taking anything away from the drivers, but these cars, and obviously none of us have driven them before. These cars are not as, how do I word this? They're not as hard to drive as the Gen 6 car. They're hard to drive. Don't get me wrong. Best drivers in the world. But they're not as hard to drive as a Gen 6 car. You floor it, you go in and turn. If you miss the turn, downshift, floor it again. Like we've talked about that.
Yeah, to quote the great Harry Hodge, ain't nothing stock about a stock car. You're right, David Bonds. And that's the thing is, like, you look and you see, and it becomes more about whose equipment you're in. It doesn't really matter anything else other than whose equipment you're in, how much funding is behind that equipment. You look at stuff. I mean, there's some differences. Obviously, you got Ty Dillon, the trash can. I mean, the racer. He did nothing in that car, and all of a sudden, you got Carson Hocevar coming in this year and doing really, really well so far, especially for a rookie, leading the points as a rookie, leading the rookies in points. Sorry, he's doing a phenomenal job.
Josh had an outstanding weekend.
Yeah, so the Josh thing, I kind of made the joke in our group chat that Josh Berry went up to Tony and was like, "Hey, listen, if you don't give me the good car instead of Noah this week, I'm going to tell everyone how we're cheating." Because all of a sudden Noah went from having a really, really good car running really well at these racetracks to he did nothing this one, but Barry was up front when it came to qualifying, when it came to the race itself. So Barry finally making a good race out of it this year with a top 5. I think he finished in the top 5, right? 4th?
No, Bowman finished 4th.
Bowman finished 4th.
Josh finished like 14th or something.
Oh, I thought he finished in the
no. There was only 5 cars on the lead lap.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And that's another thing. Like, for there to only be 5 cars on the lead lap, like, to me,
he said that was the first time since Dover of like 2004, I think it was.
Yeah.
So you're talking 20 years.
Yeah. And you watch it, and it did not like it.
It also shattered the record at Bristol alone for short track passes. For the lead.
Number of leaders and short track passes.
54 different leaders or lead changes.
Yeah, lead changes. So, I mean, that was awesome. I mean, overall, watching that race was phenomenal as a fan. The ones that tuned in and watched Atlanta would have been happy watching this race. Obviously, they're not going to understand everything that's going behind it, but I kind of think that's okay. I think it's one of those things that the way that they did this race, if they can replicate it with just a little bit less tire degradation, then they got a winning package here.
Yeah, I think Goodyear has to go back to the drawing board here, because they're going to have to, if the tire is the exact same tire they ran at Bristol last year, we obviously know it wasn't the tire compound or the makeup of the tire that caused what we saw this weekend. If Goodyear goes back to the drawing board and they design a tire that can actually last and not cord, but fall off, we would see some amazing racing no matter where we go. I think it doesn't just translate to short tracks. I think you could move it over to intermediates, road courses. I don't think you really want to mess with super speedways, because I think our super speedway package is the best it's been so far.
Don't mess with it right now. At least give us a year, 2 years to figure out if there's any problems. But right now, super speedways.
Yeah, I would have super speedways tire wise. 1.5 miles is pretty decent, but I mean, if you make a tire that even falls off in the long run at 1.5 miles, you're going to see leader gets in dirty air. They start backing up, and all of a sudden they're not as good as they were. So I think we have always preached on horsepower, but I think tire combinations is the direction to go with. It's the more approachable direction. Like, I see NASCAR making changes to tires than they do horsepower.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's cheaper, right? They keep saying the cost for going to 1,000 horsepower is the problem and the reason why they won't. Even though a lot of drivers have kind of called bullshit on that.
Oh, they straight up called bullshit on it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where tires is as long as they don't raise the tire prices, it's still just buying the same tires every week. Now it's gonna be a different compound. Who knows if they're gonna charge extra because it took longer to make it, whatever. But that'd be more attainable for NASCAR to do. I feel like that would be easier for them to be like, okay, cool, here we go. And plus, they don't finally have to go, okay, we were wrong. We do need horsepower.
And I don't even think it's NASCAR at this point. That's like, oh yeah, let's make a softer tire, or what can we do with that? I think it's Goodyear. I think Goodyear's sitting here like, oh yeah, we don't really. If you're in Goodyear shoes and you see your tire that you built for race cars degrading at 50 laps at a half-mile track, so in 25 miles, essentially,
Yeah.
the tires are disintegrating. That's not a good look for your brand, is it?
Well, and that's the thing is like people that understand racing do not give a crap.
No, they don't. I can tell you right now, I would never put Goodyear's on my vehicle.
I'm a Michelin man to begin with, or Nitto when it comes to off-road tires. I don't care, but it has nothing to do with the fact that the race car tire wears out or doesn't wear out. It doesn't. That has no bearing to me. But as a brand, that's what they're thinking. They're going, well, if people see these tires wear out, they're going to think that's what Goodyear's about.
Yeah.
That's not the problem you should be solving. Solve the on-race product.
That's going to be the problem. I got to the point in Denny's podcast last night, or Denny's podcast tonight. I got to the point right when he was talking about how the suit and ties in NASCAR, specifically down in Daytona, the CEOs, you would say, are the ones that are saying, we don't really care about the on-track package. We care more about as many cars as we can have in a pack.
Yeah.
The more cars we have on the screen, it looks good to the casual fan.
Yes.
And this goes against NASCAR's core, trying to appeal to the casual fan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even Brandon Henry here, I'd lie to the camera and say it was the same compound. Right now, I think that's I think that's part of it, because I don't think these tires are exactly the same, but I don't know.
I just, yeah, damn right. Fuck them Goodyear tires. I don't know what to think about the tire compound, because with Logano saying that he had last year's tires on there and we still saw fall off and tire cording and everything, what was it? Was it the tire compound? Was it the track?
Yeah, I mean,
either way, this has opened up a can of worms that something's going to have to be done. All the fans loved it. So
yeah,
the drivers didn't particularly like it.
Well, I know as soon as that race finished, we were all talking about, all right, let's book our place to stay. Let's buy the tickets. We're going in September.
And I told you last night too, I was like, we're not going to have the same product come September.
Probably not.
So
temp's going to be different.
Temp's going to be different, exactly. Is something going to change from yesterday till September tire compound wise? I would think so. But I don't think we're going to see, tires degrading after 50 laps.
We'll see.
It's the interesting thing to me. Right direction.
The interesting thing to me is that we have we tested out this new short track package, and then we didn't run it at Bristol. They don't consider it a short track. They tested rain tires, but obviously we don't ever think they're actually going to use it. So it's just interesting that NASCAR, they make these rules or they make these guidelines and then they go back on them. You make a great race here, and I'm afraid they're not going to follow it. I'm afraid they're going to make new guidelines. So yeah. I hope NASCAR doesn't overrule themselves into the dirt.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think they are in a predicament now because, like I said, with the drivers coming out this last week talking about horsepower and how it's not hard to add horsepower back, Denny specifically saying that it costs no different. Larson saying it costs no different. Engine builders for Hendrick Motorsports, TRD, are saying we can add 1,000 horsepower next weekend. It costs No more. It
Yeah.
literally costs the exact same to build a 650 horsepower engine and a 1,000 horsepower engine.
They're saying
So-
for longevities of the engines too, though. That was one of the pieces because right now at the engine
Yes,
are 2 races.
2 races.
1,000 horsepower would be 1 race. So your trailer, your engine seals are a bit different. But that's where I don't
And-
really think it is. I think you
and
could run 2 races on that one.
My problem with that philosophy too is that if NASCAR says, well, it costs too much money to make 1,000 horsepower because we can't run these engines twice now, we have to run them once. So you increase the engine bill by adding horsepower. Well, what's NASCAR's trade-off on that? What have they been doing to negotiate not adding horsepower and fix a package somewhere else? Changing the diffuser, changing spoilers, changing this, changing that, making changes to, spec parts to where, oh, now Stuart Haas, now Hendrick, now Joe Gibbs, they can't use these parts no more because they're defunct. They're obsolete.
Yeah.
We now have to make you go out and buy another $60,000, $100,000 diffuser for every single one of your cars. So if they're $100,000 for a diffuser, I'm blowing that number out of the water. If it's $50,000,
Yeah.
if a 4-car team has to do that, then that's $200,000 right there. How much difference does it make for an engine?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100% there. Like they keep coming with these single source parts, but then there's issues and they have to redo the single source parts, or they have to add more bracing. They have to keep doing all these different things. In the long run, okay, I get it, but by the time we finally hit the long run, we'll probably be getting geared up for the next generation of car.
I think this is exactly what NASCAR is doing. They don't want to admit that they're wrong. They don't want to admit that 1,000 horsepower is the fix to this package. They don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
They're going to do everything possible to be like, okay, let's change the tires up. Now the tires are changed up when we see better racing. See, we told you we didn't need to add horsepower.
Of course.
That's what they're going to do. They don't want to admit that they're wrong in this. They want to keep it exactly like it is for what Denny said, cars closer together on screen. It's better for sponsors. They don't want to see it drawn out or strung out or anything like that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's the problem. It's just sometimes the suits end up messing this thing up. I'm really hoping we can figure this out. Let's stop harping on that and let's get into some of the on track action now, though, because I mean I think we could spend literally all night just talking about NASCAR rule changes and what they'll do to mess this up. But you're right here. Dakota already put it in there. Denny went off on him. He went off on him on the racetrack, but he also went off on him in real life, talking about everything with it. But let's talk more about on the racetrack. Denny had one of those cars that you could tell from the beginning was going to be a top 5 car, possibly could be a winner right out of the gate. And this race to me kind of showed the strength of cars was very evident very quickly. And the people that were strong, they did their thing and they did the best they could. You really didn't see resurgence of a lot of people, but I will give one person that I thought I would never give kudos, and that's John Hunter Nemechek, the 42 car. So he definitely.
I Ty Gibbs too.
I'm not giving Ty Gibbs anything. That would give Connor too much pleasure, and I don't even know if he's watching or not. But I'm not going to give him happiness.
We're peasants.
But you have John Hunter Nemechek ends up finishing up there, does a great job that race, and
John Hunter's in the top 16 in points now.
So what?
John Hunter's in top 16 of points now.
Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Is Carson still leading rookie? Well, he's not.
He's 15th.
John Hunter's not a rookie.
John Hunter's 15th.
John Hunter's 15th.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
What's
up, Fuller?
Yeah, I would. What is up, Andrew? Is there a Blaney Ross rivalry now? I think there's been a little bit of a. Media hasn't been talking about this very much, but yes, there is.
Yeah, Ross's Don't Give a Fuck tour came back, went out there, and moved him up out of the way.
Yeah.
And
well, it's with a different manufacturer now.
Really?
It's not Chevrolet, so he doesn't have to listen to Rick.
It's true. This is very, very true. So, all of a sudden it's going to be Penske money, though, and they're not going to let him race in some of the fun races.
Yeah. Talking about, though, the racing this weekend, how you said there was obviously certain cars that seemed like they were more dominant than the other. Denny was one of them. Just because we had a tire degradation issue, we still saw the cream rise to the top. We saw the veterans that know how to manage tires. especially from Gen 6 days and high horsepower days, know how to manage tires, show up.
Yeah.
You had Denny Hamlin, Martin
Mhm.
Truex,
Mhm.
Larson.
JGR.
JGR as a
JGR.
whole. Larson was the only Chevrolet that was showing up this weekend.
Yep.
Bowman obviously finished 4th, but that was because he pitted very late and kind of leapfrogged everybody again on newer tires compared to everybody else. So we had a mix of guys, but I would say consistently wise, JGR was at one point it was 1 through 4 JGR. So
they were top of class, and then Christopher Bell had his fall off.
Yeah, we're gonna see more of this year too. Like JGR,
sure.
I feel like is going to be a more dominant team this year across the board. It's not going to be just Denny; it's going to be everybody.
But do you know who else has been really sneaky, and the whole team is doing really, really well at short track so far this year? RFK.
Yeah,
Brad and Busher both. This is two short tracks where they have both finished in the top 10. They are racing very quietly on the way up there, but they are getting there by the end of the race. Like it's so funny to watch because Brad was up there for a good portion of it, but Busher was way back for a long time, and I just kept watching. I'm like, man.
Do you know who scored the most points this weekend?
Brad. Yeah, it was Brad.
Yeah.
And I didn't choose him. I put freaking Busher in my my picks, but
I had Busher in my picks too.
Yeah, but I mean, it's awesome. They're getting it together. They're racing well at short tracks. I think that's a good sign for RFK. Stuart Haas with Barry finishing the way he did and running the way he did this weekend. That's a good sign for them. Penske, it's not good for this one. The rest of them have been good. Logano still having woes.
Yeah, I would say Penske as a whole, they showed some speed early on. Obviously, Blaney with the pole. I think that was Blaney's first pole since 2022.
Well, Blaney had the pole. Logano was like top 3 in practice, and then
Logano qualified 3rd or 4th.
Yeah.
So we had Penske up front again, but as soon as the green flag waved, Logano fell backwards. So
Anchor.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that 22 team. Joseph said yesterday that he's glad that Blaney's taken over as the head honcho over at Penske. I'm glad I'm glad Blaney has kind of become number 1 over there. I don't think it's necessarily that they were like, "Hey, Ryan, you're our new favorite guy now." I think it's just that Ryan's got a little bit better of a team.
Yeah, I mean he's not the head hair plug for sure.
Yeah, so I mean Ryan. As soon as Ryan won that championship, he don't give a fuck no more.
Yeah, I mean he's walking with a little bit more swagger nowadays, especially on the track as well. I'm interested to see what happens with the whole Ross and him thing. I think it's definitely gonna be a storyline they push because I know someone else that used to always be up in the storylines that has not this year, and NASCAR's got to figure out a way to fill that void. Chase Elliott. What is going on?
Who?
Exactly.
Who?
Exactly. What is going on with the season for him this year so far?
I'm here for it. I love it. I love every race that goes by that he doesn't win.
It's to me, I made the joke to another friend of mine, and it was like, all right, so last year he was out because of his snowboarding incident. This year he's just trying to see if he can make it back into the playoffs with laying off this many races. Because last year, up until the point that he went out, he was finishing, top 10, pretty consecutively. Like he was doing really well in points, Bowman as well. And so far this year, dude, it has not been good for Chase.
Yeah, Chase is, well, I mean, you could say that, but I actually think Chase is like 6th or 7th in points.
He's not terrible because he knows how to get stage points.
6th.
Yeah, he knows. That is one thing Chase will always be able to do good is that stage points, but his finishing.
I'm going to shit on Chase as much as I can because I just love shitting on Chase. But if there's anything Chase is good at, he's consistent. And even though he may not have let's say he doesn't have a top 10 car, somehow he figures out how to make it a top 10 car. So it doesn't matter how many races go by that Chase doesn't win a race. He's always going to be a threat to win a race. I don't care what anybody says. He's going to be a threat to win a race no matter what.
For sure.
It's not like the Dale Jr. days where, 4 years goes by and Dale Jr. doesn't win a race and racing in top tier equipment and can only, finish 20th in points. That's not the case.
No.
He's he's still. I think he's got a little bit of a confidence issue. I think he still hasn't adjusted to this car. I just don't think it fits his driving style. And, if NASCAR can figure out how to, make these races end up like they were this weekend, I think you're going to see, Chase maybe make a resurgence.
Yeah, for
Back
sure.
in his hands.
That's the thing. He knows how to race. He is a good race car driver, just no personality. That's his problem.
Yeah.
But all right, what else? What else you got? You want to talk about anything else from the race? Congratulations, Denny, winning again, beating all your favorite race car drivers. Larson was putting in good effort.
Larson. So it's no secret. I listen to his radio every weekend. That pit call where they penalized him on that one of the last pit sequences.
That cost it.
Cliff was trying to overturn it because he said that it looked like the tire changer on the guy that was pitting in front of him was interfering, and that's what caused the tire interference. But then I watched a post race with Cliff, and he was like, "Oh no, I was standing down on the wall and I saw it wrong." Like once I went back and actually watched, the replay of it, it's like, "Oh yeah, we definitely fucked up there." He got lucky though with the way everything worked out because when he took tires and had to start from the back, he raced his way up to like 15th. And he just drove the shit out of his tires, and he started falling back like really, really fast. And I was like, well, that's the end of that. And thankfully, the way the race ended, he was able to get some track position back. And I don't know how he did it. If this was last year, Larson, somehow something would have fucked up.
Oh, for sure.
DNF'd or something. But he kept his head cool and pulled out a top 5.
Yeah, good for him. Good for Team Hendrick. Bowman actually did not do terrible here either. So what?
Kyle's leading the points now, by the way.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Nice. Getting in front of Blaney now. Yeah, Blaney had a terrible
Him and Truex are actually tied, but
terrible. But that's good for him. Andrew said he got some incredible shots. Make sure y'all go check Andrew out.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did.
I saw some of his shots. He posted them in the NG group.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I gotta look in there. I haven't been in the NG group since yesterday sometime. Thought to check those out, but make sure y'all check out his Instagram.
I like that John Hunter hat you got on, 42. Did my audio break up there? I like that 42 hat you got on. Yeah, it says there's a 42 on the side there, buddy.
I'm gonna burn it off. Hat's trash now. Just got to go in the trash. I hate you,
John Hunter fan.
All right, let's move into picks then. I can't stand you. So we're gonna move into picks. I've let you go first for these previous ones. I'm going to go first on this one. I'm going to go with Tyler Reddick.
Oh, wow. Going for last year's winner, huh?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know how the Toyotas are going to fare on the road courses. I feel like they're going to be pretty dang stout.
I don't know. I think they figured it out pretty quick. So
yeah, I think Toyota, going back to JGR being pretty strong this year, I think Toyota is going to be strong this year. Mm-hmm. Damn. Joseph threw a fucking pick that kind of sounds good.
It's not a bad pick.
I can see it.
He's going to get a win this year. I don't like him. So he's going to get a win this year.
Here's the thing about Ty. Remember when he started in the Xfinity Series? What was the first race he raced in Xfinity Series?
Hey.
The GOAT.
BJ McLeod with the all-black car because he still hasn't got a sponsor. Let's get it.
So, Ty Gibbs, what was his first race in Xfinity?
Shoot, I don't remember. I mean, it was something for his granddad.
Daytona Road Course.
There we go.
First ever start in Xfinity. What did he do?
Win, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I kind of like that pick. I'm gonna go with Ty Gibbs. I like it.
Cheating again.
Fuck out of here. Not on my screen.
They said Denny with a third, and you were like, "Send it, send it."
Hey, it doesn't even fucking matter. You can be mad all you want about that. You didn't even pick Denny.
That was gonna be my pick. I had to retype it.
You said Joey Logano, but if he is taken, I will take Blaney.
Yes, my first text before I had to delete the first part of it was Denny Hamlin.
Bullshit.
Next pick is this
bullshit.
One. Then if that one's taken,
Joey Logano is like
3 picks.
If someone beats my text out, I will go with Ryan Blaney.
Yes,
off.
I had 3 picks in my pick because I wanted to make sure that I had it locked and loaded. As soon as I saw yours, I had to delete it. And the same thing happened to Dakota. We all got
actually
bummed.
so actually the same thing happened to me. I was actually going to pick Blaney. I had the 12, and as soon as Nathan sent out the 12, I was like, "Fuck!" So I deleted the 2 and put 1. I'm like, "Send it."
No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just gonna be fun. The podcast is under review. It probably will be, but no, it was a lot of fun. And congratulations, you got back-to-back wins, helping you pay that mortgage. And we're gonna keep doing this.
They don't even pay the fucking property taxes, bitch.
Hey, you know, rich people have problems. You know, if you just didn't have that mansion, building that mansion out there.
Rich. That's the funniest fucking thing. Bailey said on Instagram, Andy LaJoy and Mr. Poole. Fucking done with that shit. You
You're
see a beard here?
It still looks the same.
It's not happening.
Anybody got some hookups with Corey? If you could please show him a picture of Andy and say, "Hey, I need you to shave off your beard for a week with just the mustache," they would be back to twinning again.
Look, if Corey shaved the beard off and did just the mustache, he might actually win.
Hey, it's weight reduction.
Here's the question I have. So Talladega is next month, right?
Yes, a month from now.
Mustache.
Me?
A mustache you question.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't shave my mustache. This is how it's stuck.
And
It doesn't grow in the center.
so you should be like Joey Logano and get some hair plugs for your lip.
I'm good, fam. I'll keep the beard. When I shave my mustache, I end up looking Amish, and if I shave my beard, I end up looking fat.
Joseph, you're in the chat. Mustache for Dega.
Uncle
Chuck.
Chuck.
Chicken dinner.
Hey, as long as you got here, that's all that matters.
Hey, I will say, every week that goes by, I become a bigger and bigger Denny Hamlin fan.
That's because his podcast is freaking awesome when it comes to talking about the stuff that matters.
When he got out of the fucking car last night and he was already doing fucking loved it. Trolling everybody. I love it. I love Denny. I might have to get some Denny swag.
Yeah, I got the Joe Deere Tay. They call it the reverse Dolph. I'm not going to pronounce the full name, but they call it the reverse Dolph.
Anybody else going to show up with a mullet?
Dude, I'd love to be able to show up with a mullet. If my work would let me show up with a mullet, I would have the mullet.
No, you wouldn't.
I would. If they would let me, 100%.
Why don't they let you?
Dude, I literally have a meeting, a meeting at the home base the day before I leave to go.
You'd be like Joey Logano. Hair plugs.
Technically, y'all two do have a lot in common. You both like Penske.
Yeah.
You both like Ford. You both need hair plugs.
Yeah. Yeah, Dega's going to be lit.
Day's going to be fun. We're still working on some things for that, but can't wait to get that going. The Dega Creek camp is going to be phenomenal. We're going to have a bunch of friends out there. Make sure you check everyone out. We have a great friend group that's been going on with this. It's the heart of our group chat. We go on their podcast. They sometimes come on ours. Speaking of which, next week you might need to pull a friend because I'm going to be on vacation next week. So I will not be on the podcast starting Monday. Yes, it's this thing that you get whenever your job actually likes you. 11 shirt, Dega Creek.
I got you, Chuck.
Dega Creek's gonna be awesome. But check out some of the boys. You got Chair Gaten, you got Left Turn Colt, you got Uncle Chuck Racing. He's in the chat right now. We got a bunch of people out there, so it's gonna be a great time. You know, I'll be there. Yes, come on, swing on by, sir. Swing on by. We're gonna be throwing down.
We're gonna have a full fucking camp.
Dude, we got compounds. It's not a camp. It's a compound is what we're running at Dega. So it's going to be a great time. But thank y'all for everything. Make sure if you want to help us out, you want to help fund a little bit more racing, and you need a cooler, you can go to kangacoolers.com. You can use our code FASTCAR10. I believe the link is also in our link tree where you can just go straight to it. They got coolers, and this is like the backpack coolers. They also have the ones where you can put your entire 12-pack or 24-pack in it. They have koozies. They have all kinds of stuff. But use that code FASTCAR10. It helps us out. It gets you 10% off. It's a win-win. So thank you so much for everything. But that's all I got. You got anything, Andy?
Yeah, I got one quick thing. Chuck, are you still in the chat? If so, I will wear a Hamlin shirt at Dega if you wear a Larson shirt.
Chuck,
We'll have
what
to
do you
see
say,
if he
sir?
responds back.
I'm waiting. That's what I'm looking. I'm looking over. I gotta hold on. I gotta turn the phone so I can see.
It might end up in the group chat.
You got to put it in the group chat.
Yeah.
Oh, nope.
No deal. Ah! Motherfucker.
There was a chance. You lost it. But all right.
All right. I'm out. You out?
I'm out. Till next time. See y'all ugly sons of bitches. Later.